Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in again. So in this video we are going to talk about Stripe subscriptions, and also this video will be split into two parts. The first part we're going to talk about setup of subscription based manager, or a dashboard. So that means that the users, they can actually go to this website and they can actually manage their subscription, like cancel the subscription, on see where when the subscription go or expire, and everything that person can need to know about the subscription. And the second part of the video will be to actually check if a user has an active subscription to your app, or generate in your subscription if you're using a web app or whatever you're using Flow. And this, we are going to do it like every time a user opens the app, the application itself, it will actually check if this user has an active subscription. And I did it like that for the reason is that even if a person has an active subscription, in my case, the subscriptions are based on a year base and not monthly base. But even if a user has an active subscription, they can cancel the subscription anytime, and that it can happen wherever something that like wherever happened, right? So a user can will or cannot have a subscription. So that's why I'm checking it every time app is open. And of course you can change that. You can change your logic to check it like every month, once a month, or once a week, or once a year, wherever you prefer to. But like I said, I'm checking it every time the app will be open. And before we jump into this video, I just want to let you know that this is a part series videos, and the first tutorial that you have to watch is this one: manage recruit payments with ease, subscription services in Flow. And this is actually Stripe related. So make sure that you watch this first, and then you can jump to this video. So let me first show you how this works. So I will go to my app now and show you my setup in my app. I have set up a simple page. I think I already talked about this page. It's a very simple page. You have the virtual card when you are a subscription, where you're subscribed. So where you're a fan. In my case, it's a football fan, like a football European, not the US one, like a soccer in US. So it's a football-based fan club in Bulgaria of Newcastle United. So probably you can see Newcastle, Bulgaria, and I did it. This is Bulgarian, and I did it. I actually set up a simple button, which is when you click this button, you will go to a page provided by Stripe that a user can manage the subscription. And let me show you how this page looks like. This is the page when you set up. So you have to log in with the same email that you provide when you made the subscription. So this is important. And you can, from here you can manage like almost everything. You can manage the payment method, so you can change your card, or you can add another card. You can change your card. You can change your billing information as well. You can see your subscription, when was it paid, and in my case it's invoice one, so that's why I get this text: the invoice hasn't been paid yet, because this is a demo and I did it with an invoice which I didn't mark as paid. I should probably mark it as paid, but I didn't. But I still have an active subscription, right? I haven't paid this invoice, but I still have an active subscription because I did it manually. In this case, like I said, it's a demo one. And then this is in Bulgarian, but it says you're a member of Newcastle United Football Club Bulgarian, a fan club. And then this is 30 level. It's approximately 50 per year, and it's approximately 15 euro per year. And now I can pay the unpaid invoice through here, or I can cancel my plan through here. So I think this is everything that you need to do. And like I said, I just put it in my page in Flow, and then I put it as a link. Of course, you can actually use another approach with that. You can actually use a page view, and I think it's web view. Sorry, not the page view, but a web view. So you can use a web view actually, so people will not go outside your app, because you can literally open this page inside in a page view, and people will not enter out of your app. But in my case, it's actually okay, because this will be open in a browser, or the default browser of the user. And then the first step that the user has to do is actually fill their email address. And when they fill their email address with the one that they subscribed, they will receive an email from Stripe, and they will click on the link. And when they click on the link, this is what it will. This is what they will see. And how you get the link, it is very simple. It's a very simple link. I will actually show you. This is the dashboard in Stripe. This is my dashboard. This is the active one. And if you go to settings and you go to custom portal, and then you have the custom portal, so you can actually have to activate it, and then you get a link, and this is the link that you need to send to the user. So if I copy this link and I'll open it in incognito mode, because I think you need to open it in incognito mode because I'm already logged in, and you can actually see that you get this page, and it's in Swedish right now, but wherever, because I am in Sweden right now, so you get this in your own language, of course. And then, like I said, you need to just uh, enter the email address that you logged in with, and then you receive the link. And when you enter the link again, you get to this page from your email. So great. It's a very, very simple setup. We don't need any code with that. It's a no code solution. That's why I provided this solution. And this is the first part of the video. It's like I said, it's a very simple process. It's a very simple step uh, to allow users to manage their subscriptions. Great. And then let's move on to the second part, which is check if the user has an active subscription. So this is a little bit tricky, because in order to do that, you have to actually connect your app with Stripe. So you have to check actually if your app has your user in your app has an active subscription. So in order to do that, I did it this way. So first of all, let's go to Stripe. So let's go in Stripe. I'll disappear in the shadows now, because you probably don't need to see my face. It's not very valuable of this tutorial. And then we have to add two API codes, or API codes. The first one is to get the user, and we'll get the user because we need the customer ID in order to check, based on the customer ID, if the customer has any active subscriptions. And first of all, you have to, like I said, we have to get the customer ID, and this is the arrow. This is a GET request. The method type is GET, and it is the endpoint. It's customers, and then we have the authorization basic, and we need the key. And the key is actually, if I go back to my dashboard in Stripe. So first of all, I will show you it's the same. If you use a test mode, or you can disable the test mode, it doesn't really matter. But you have to click on developers, and then click on API keys, and then this is the key secret key. So you have to review this secret key. I will not review it now, but you have to review it. It will look like something like that. And when you click on it, it will copy. So you have to copy this one, not the public one, but the secret key one. And then when you copy it, you have to go back to Flow. So make sure you paste it like this key. And then if you go to variables, this is the key that here is the place that you have to put it. Make sure that you have the name key. It is a string, it is not a list. So this is false. And then paste this value over here. And then you have the email. So the email is the other thing that we need. And then we have the string, and then you have it's not a list again. And then we have the query parameters. So make sure that you include the query parameters, which is the email. And this is from variable, and the variable is coming from selected variable, and this is the email. And the reason for that is that using variables, we can actually pass the email to the query. Well, so every time we execute this query or we fire this query, we have a different email, right, with the user who is actually using the app. And the key will be a static one, so that's why you have a default value. You don't need to pass that every time. And make sure when you are ready to switch to production mode and not to test mode, so make sure you uncheck this and go again to developers and then API keys and switch to your production key and not to the test key. But first, when you do testing, make sure you are actually using the testing one. And then if you switch back here, you have your email here entered. I'll probably not review my email, but you have your email. And then if I click test, you actually see the response. The response should be code 200 success, and you should get the customer ID. So this is very important, and you get it inside the data object JSON list of objects. And because actually a user uh, you can have multiple users created inside Stripe. So that's why it's a list of users, because with this email, they could be associated to multiple users, not only one user, but actually multiple users. And that's why you have a list of users. And then the second API call that we need to call is again the method type, it's get. I name it get subscription, and the endpoint it's subscriptions. And again, the headers is the same, the key is the same key that we use. And then we have the customer. So the customer is changeable, and the customer is actually the customer ID that I just show you from the get customer. This is where it is coming from. And the status, this is the status of the subscription. And in our case, it's actually we are searching for the active subscription. Of course, if you're searching for any other subscription, you can actually have this as well. So when you enter this website, this is the API, this is the Stripe API reference, and you get the endpoints and what you can actually call. And in our case, as you probably can see, we're actually calling subscriptions here, and we are calling subscriptions, which is this one, right? We're calling this one. And when we're calling this one, we have the customer that we want to call. We can have the price. It's optional. So which if you have a multiple products, in my case I have only one product, but if you have multiple products, you can call to whatever product you want to know if the user is subscribed to. But in my case, it's actually two products, but I don't care if it's either of them. I still want to see if because the one it's with a discount, so it doesn't really matter for me which price the user subscribed to. And then we have the possible enum values, and we have this active, post due, unpaid, blah 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 blah. So we have a lot of them, and the one that I'm searching for is the active one, because I want to know if a user has an active subscription. So that's everything that I want to know. Then of course you can use the status, so you can search for any other status that you want. So if you want to know if the user does not have an active subscription, you can put it here. And then if you want to test this, we have the customer ID, and then in the test response, we can actually test it, and we should get, if the user has an active subscription, we should get this result, which is data, and then we have the ID of the user. And sorry, this is not ID of the user, this is the ID of the active subscription. If I change this to let's add another number, which is 8, and we don't have such a customer, and I test it again, you actually see that you get the response 400, which is a failure, and it says missing, resource missing, and then it says no such customer. But if we don't have an active subscription, you get actually an error again that this user has no active subscription. But in my case, it has an active subscription. You have a lot of data here, and it says also that I have an invoice, or my active subscription is using an invoice. So that's great. So we set it up that. So now we know. So now we can get the user by the email, and then we can get, based on this user, we can get the subscription. So the first problem is that if you have multiple subscription, how we can search on the multiple subscription. And to tackle that, we have the third part of this video, and the third part is actually how we are going to use API calls inside a custom action. Great. So the last part of this video is we are going to talk how we are going to use the API calls with a custom code, so we can actually run the API calls, run the first API call, which is to check for existing customers using the email. And then if we have multiple emails or multiple customers that are returned from the Stripe API, to actually run for every single customer that is returning from the first API, to actually run the second one, the second API, which is to check if there is a subscription for this user. And if we find a subscription for this user, then we have to actually uh, uh, save this, that the user has a subscription, and then exit the code. So first of all, make sure that you set up those two API codes that we just talked about it, and then go to your page. When you go to your page or your app or your project, in my own page, in my home page, which is the page a user will go after they log in or register in my app, I'll actually have on my scaffold, which is the first widget in my widget tree, I'll actually have this. So I actually query the user. In my case, I'm getting from the API call, but it doesn't really matter. You can get it from the authenticating user. And then here, I'm actually saving the data. So I'm actually saving the data when the user actually log in. So this is in the settings, and this is when a user logged in. So when a user logged in my app, when after the user logged in my app, I'm actually saving the data in the email. I'm saving the data. Sorry, before the user logged in my app, I'm saving the data, because if the user has no access, it will not continue to the second step, right? It will not continue to the login page. But yeah, so the whole idea is to have actually an email app state, which is be the email, and then you have to save the user email. So this is the first thing. And the second thing that I'm using is the subscription. So I have an app state, which is a single sub. It's the name of the variable. It's sub, and it's a Boolean type. And if a user has a subscription, I'll put it to true. But if it doesn't, I'll put it to false. So let me just show you in the app states what that looks like. So first of all, I have the email. Like I said, it's a string, and it is persistent because If the user closed the app, I still want to know what is the user it is using. And then I have the email, the user that is using, and then I have the sub. And the sub is actually a boolean, and again this is persistent because if the user closed the app, I still want to know if the user is subscribed to the app or not, and by the default this is unchecked, which is false. So it's very important to have the email of the user in the app state, because if you using the authenticated user, it will actually not work. So let me go to the actual code, and I can um, actually command this line, or I can actually delete this line in general, and it should still work. I will delete this line again because I'm not using it, because I tried first to actually use it with the authenticated user using the Firebase one, but it's actually not using for some reason. This is not catching it. And because we'll actually use this in the main.tar file. So I'll just show you that. So let me just go through the code. I don't think that there is something that you need to change with the code if you actually using the same. So if you have the same um, Stripe API groups, so if you set up the API codes the same way I did, I don't think you need to change anything in your code. So if you have this Stripe API is the name of the group, and then you have get customer like the same way I do, and you get, and this is get subscription like the same way I do as well. You should be actually able to have access to this get customer call is the one API call, and the other one is get subscription call. So, like I said, the whole idea is to actually get the email by ffupstate and then email. This is how we're going to get the email of the current user that is logged in your app. And then when we get the email, we will get a result in a customer response. So we're going to use actually the customer response. We don't need this code, to be honest, and we don't need this code as well. So we're getting the customer response, and when we get to the customer response, now we are getting the ID of the customer. So when we get the ID of the customers, first, we're getting the whole customers, and we're looping through every single customer. And when we loop through every single customer, first of all, we're getting the ID of the customer, and then we're calling the other API call, which is get subscription call. And we have actually two options over here. So the first option is that if we already saved, uh, if we already have saved the Stripe sub ID. So this is the Stripe subscription ID. We can actually save it in the API call. So we can, the app state. So we can have another app state, which is this one, which is Stripe sub ID. And we are going to use this for the sole reason is that we can actually save the Stripe ID there and not run through the API call again and again and again. So we have to, if we know the active Stripe ID, this is actually the best way, and you can actually use the Stripe ID automatically over here as well. So you can have another logic, of course, which is if you grab the Stripe ID, which is the active one, just use that one. But in my case, like I said, I'm going to check it every time because I think if a user subscribe, mine are based every year, and I think if a user subscribe one more time, it will actually create a new user. I'm not sure about it, but I had in my Stripe dashboard like a couple of users with the same email. So that's why I'm saying that. And then I'm just looking if I have the Stripe subscription ID. I'll actually get it from the Stripe subscription ID. But if I don't get it, if I don't have it, if it's empty, I'll actually get it from the customer ID, which I get from the call above. Great. And then the last thing is that if the user has an active subscription, and if a user has an active subscription, so we are actually going through all the subscriptions because the user can have multiple subscriptions as well. And I'm just checking if the subscription is active, I'm saving the Stripe subscription ID to the app state, and then I'm saving the sub, which is the subscription, which is active subscription, or in my case is just sub. I'm equal to true, and then I'm just returning. So I'm just exiting the whole thing on the code. So that means that I have an active subscription to my user, and I can actually use this sub state sub to know that the user has an active subscription, and then go to main. And when I go to main, I'm using it like that. So I don't use it in the initial application. I'm actually using it in the final action. Sorry, I'm not using it in initial actions. I'm using it in the final actions, and I'm using it there because if I use it in initial actions, the FF state it's still not associated. I think so. It will. I haven't tried, but I think it's not yet associated. So that's why I need to use it in the final actions. But let me know. Probably in the initial actions, it will still work. I think it's working. It's working for me because the whole idea is that when you change the app state, even if the app is already built, when you change the app state, it will actually change it in the app itself as well. So this is the code. Of course, I will provide the code. The code will be available in the description. And this is how I'm doing it. And when a user, I already tested, when a user loads the app, you actually get that the user is subscribed, and you get to the page where you can see your active subscription. And before you go, I just want to show you my app, which is this one, and that everything is working correctly because it's in Bulgaria, but you can still see my name is in Bulgaria. And if I click this button, you can actually see my card, which is the card that I use to subscribe, to actually see that I'm an active fan of the fan club. And if I click this button again, like I said, I am going to go to this page, which is the page that I can use to manage my subscriptions. So, thank you very much for watching. And before you go, I just wanted to let you know that the code will be available in this page that I set up for my 2,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. And I actually have another surprise for the 3,000 subscribers. So let's see that we can make it to the 3,000 subscribers, and I'll review my surprise after that. So thank you very much again for watching, and have a nice day. I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.